Welcome to My Story. I'm your host, Kate Baltazar Dodge. Today, we'll be talking with 22-year-old Zachary, who was diagnosed with a rare colon cancer. This will be a special episode as we talk with Zach via Skype from California when My Story returns. Welcome back to My Story. I'm your host, Kate Baltazar Dodge, and I'm happy that you could join us today. We have a very special episode today as we are video conferencing live our interviewee, Zachary Nicholas, a cancer warrior who currently resides in California. Half a day, Zach.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. A little bit of a rough start today, but all comes down to good things. So, yeah.
Sure, and I just want to first thank you for joining us. I know with the time difference and everything, the coordination and all was a little bit of a challenge, but I do thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
Zach, I just wanted to kind of get into your story from the beginning. If you could just tell us from the very beginning how your cancer journey started in terms of what you were feeling, what you were experiencing, any symptoms, and how your diagnosis came about.
Yeah, so my story started all back in September of 2018 is when symptoms pretty much started happening. So symptoms were basically just like food poisoning. I was very dehydrated, I was nauseous, I was vomiting, and coming out the other end. And then it would just be for 1 or 2 days, and then after 1 or 2 days I would be completely fine and go back to being a regular 22-year-old college student. But then as time progressed, it became more frequent than just 1 or 2, or than just 1 or 2 days, and then it would come back like 3 weeks and then last for longer. And then by the time November rolled around, November, December is when it got really bad, where it was like every week for days on end, and I would be in like constant pain. And I pretty much just made it through finals week that time during during that time, and just pretty much just pushed through and just wanted to be back home. So.
And Zach, where were you attending school at the time?
I was attending University of Colorado in Boulder, Colorado Boulder. So I was very far away from home, and I'd be FaceTiming my mom sometimes, like if it was just really too painful, and her being back home, it was just very hard for her just to watch everything go, and how it was painful for her to watch me go through it alone, pretty much. Yeah. And then
so when did you finally get that diagnosis? What did finally someone say, I think there is something much more serious than food poisoning or a gastrointestinal condition that made them really pay attention and say, I think we need to do more?
Yeah, so I never really visited a doctor until I got back home after Christmas break. And that's when they said they were pretty concerned, since the symptoms were lasting for so long. At first, they diagnosed me with an irritable bowel syndrome because the symptomology was kind of lining up with each other. And then pretty much in January, December to January, ending of December to January is when I got my formal diagnosis, when I went in to get a colonoscopy. After I received my CT scan saying that there was a mass.
And so this was in Colorado after Christmas break?
No, this was back home on Guam.
Oh, back home. Oh, so you were here on Guam when you received that diagnosis?
Yes, yeah. I pushed through finals week, flew home, and after I got home is when everything just went downhill from there. I couldn't hold any food down. I was in so much pain. My abdomen was in so much pain. I wasn't really interacting with anyone. I was just really sick. And when I went to go see the doctors, they ordered ultrasounds and CT scans. And once they got the CT scans back, they said I had a mass in my colon. then they recommended that I get a colonoscopy, and they took a biopsy from the colonoscopy, and once the results came back later, they said it was cancerous. So
So that is really that is really something that nobody expects, right? Like nobody really expects that diagnosis from something. You're young, healthy, 22-year-old college student, and something that just seemed like
yeah.
you had a stomach upset, and now with this cancer diagnosis. What were the decisions then? I mean, what were the decisions then that had to be made with that diagnosis?
Right. So, just to go back to like your earlier statement, I mean, no one expects it, especially coming from a 22-year-old. I mean, at first, my mom and I thought it was just me being, uh, or 21. I turned 21, and then when you turn 21, I was a college student, and I kind of took it a little bit too far, and then we just thought it was just me being upset, so I cut some things out. But the choices that were made for me to move forward in my life, I had to first just sit down with myself at
Mm-hmm.
first because it was just a very surreal moment for me when I first got diagnosed, and then once I sat down with my grandparents and my mom, that was when it kind of just hit me all at once, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to deal with it, so I needed to be alone. And then we started talking about the next steps to get me better, and that was to go off island to seek a more specialized oncologist.
So that brought you to where you are today.
Hmm.
So now you're in California. And what were the next steps following this diagnosis? So school got put on hold, yes?
Yeah, I withdrew from my last semester. It was my last semester before graduating. And, it was just a very hard decision for me, of
Certainly.
course, and just
Mm-hmm.
like heartbreaking because I was like on the cusp of graduating college. I was looking at a new state to live in, looking for jobs, and I had to completely put my life on hold and move to California to seek out a specialist, two specialists. One was a gastro or a colorectal doctor to remove the tumor first and then get treated after removing the tumor. But unfortunately, the tumor was or is inoperable at the moment. So this tumor is still um, for the lack of better words, in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been going through chemo treatment since then, since April. I'm sorry.
So since you moved and you had to set up this new life, and then your mom has come to be with you.
Yeah. So it was a family decision
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't gonna go back out alone. My mom put
Mm-hmm.
her life completely on hold for me, which I'm beyond grateful for. And I get emotional. Sorry. I just it's as much of a blessing to have her here to go through
Mm-hmm.
this journey with me because I didn't want her to, and I didn't want my family to go through seeing me in pain, but she has stood by my side the entire time
Mm-hmm.
since being here.
So So as you mentioned, kind of going back, so the cancer is actually it's a tumor in your colon.
Right. Yeah. So my cancer is specifically, or so it's a tumor in my colon, but specifically it's called goblet appendiceal carcinoid.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually found in adults in the years of 50 to 60, and
Mm-hmm.
then between those ages, they don't really diagnose it. It's only found in 1 in 2 million people. So I have a very like rare form of cancer,
Mm-hmm.
um, and uh, yeah. So the only reason why the tumor is inoperable is because it sits on a main blood supply in my abdomen, and if they were to remove it, and even the slightest mistake, it would be a fatal a fatal resection for me.
So how long? And you mentioned you were on chemotherapy. How long have you been on chemo now?
I've been on chemo since April, so that's April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, almost 8 months now, and my progress has been outstanding. My bad. Outstanding. No, astounding. My bad. Sorry. Edit. Sorry. But my progress from what the oncologists have seen has been excellent, and they have high hopes that I can get better after the next steps that are coming soon.
Awesome. That's wonderful. So, so just kind of going back, this is a rare cancer. Yes?
It's a very rare cancer. The obstacle that my oncologists have is that there's just so little research and cases about this type of cancer, that it's pretty much that I'm pretty much their starting point. They don't know how the treatments are going, how I'm going to react if they take me off of chemo. So yeah, they're just happy to see that I'm progressing super well towards what they hope they can find and what they hope can be curative.
Amazing. So, Zach, we're going to talk a little more about the rest of your amazing story. Folks, stay tuned. We have more from Zachary Nicholas via video conference when my story continues. Stay tuned. And we are back with Zachary Nicholas, who we're speaking with live via video conference in California. Welcome back, Zach.
Hi.
So, Zachary, we were talking a little bit earlier in the show about your treatment. Is there any other treatment or any special tests or things that you have to go through in this? Because you mentioned that the doctors, you're basically patient zero in terms of this rare cancer in someone your age as well. As a 21-year-old, I'm sure they fully did not expect to have this diagnosis in someone of your age and in excellent health. So is there anything that they're trying in terms of a special diet, or do you have to take special tests regularly to assess your progress?
Right, yeah. So there's a couple things that are pretty much different throughout this entire process. So my diet is restricted to no red meat and no vegetables, which is kind of which is kind of strange.
Interesting.
Because, yeah, they said no red meat or vegetables just because while I'm on chemotherapy, the type of chemotherapy regimen that they have me on, it's harder since red meat and vegetables are harder to digest. They asked me to stay away from that so I don't have anything going wrong digestively. And then the difference I have in my chemo treatment is that I'm on chemotherapy plus Avastin. And Avastin is just a different kind of chemotherapy drug that kind of maintains the cancer in one area of the body and doesn't spread throughout the bloodline.
So essentially, it helps to keep it from spreading to other parts of your body.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, Avastin is one of the side effects is that it affects wound healing. So they just tell me not to do any contact sports or try not to cut myself or get caught in any way, because if I were to get cut and I'm on Avastin, it's a lot harder for my body to heal from that and a higher risk of infection.
Interesting. And are they taking tests? Are they doing tests on you kind of in intervals, measuring this progress?
The only test that they've been pretty much doing, or like research that they've been doing, is just based off the blood that they collect from me before I go into chemotherapy. So they take my blood before I go into chemotherapy just to make sure the blood work is good, but also he uses the blood that he collected to see what's different and what else he can be doing differently. And then also the genetic testing is another thing that they try to research on. So when we first got out here, we talked to a genetic counselor, and she went through my uh, maternal and paternal side, and we did the whole family tree to
Mm-hmm.
see if there has been any genetic disposition for me to have this type of cancer. And there wasn't. It's not. I mean, it's not entirely clear, but it's just to help see how I got cancer.
Wow, that is interesting. So then they determined that it was not something sort of hereditary or something that was passed down through genetics.
Yeah, it became conclusive that it wasn't a genetic disposition, but
Mm-hmm.
they did find a genetic mutation. Um,
Mm.
it doesn't explain why I got cancer or how I got cancer, but they found a specific genetic mutation that me, my mom, and my brother share, but not my
Oh,
sister.
interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, in other ways, we're just a bunch of special people.
You certainly are. And knowing your mom, she is. She's an extra special lady. So,
Just to emphasize the word extra.
Zach, I just wanted to ask you. So, when we do these interviews, and I talk to just in my in my daily work and talking with cancer warriors, they often have sort of this message that yes, I'm living with cancer and I'm a warrior, but I also am doing X, Y, Z other things and involved with some things that are meaningful to me that has nothing to do with the fact that I have cancer. So what's the day in the life of Zach like as you're there in California and finding and learning more about ways to get healthier and healthier? How do you spend your days and what are the things that are most important to you now?
I mean, the things that are most important to me now hasn't really changed from before. I mean, I'm just so happy that um, I've been given the amazing blessing of having friends and family will come through every so often, and that's just a rejuvenating thing. After going through chemo, I don't know how my days go. Actually, it's a very unpredictable thing. I can have a really good day or a really bad day or just a meh kind of day.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like the most important thing to me right now are actually the people in my life, and that's how I've been pretty much getting through my days.
Mhm.
I try to FaceTime like my best friends every day. I try to FaceTime my
Mhm.
siblings every day. And the times that I have bad days and just feel like crying, I just um, just sit and have a conversation with my mom and
Mhm.
or have a conversation with my best friends, and I try to get my mindset to a better place. And another thing that has pretty much giving me an opportunity to feel normal in the sense
Mhm.
is I've been taking classes, online classes, two online classes,
Awesome.
psychology of happiness and another sociology class. But that's what I've been trying to do to just at least move my life forward instead of just wallowing in, um, you know, a sucky situation.
Zach, your story is so inspiring, and this is such a tremendous privilege to talk with you. And I know I speak also on behalf of the production team right now. We're just very overwhelmed and so inspired. Do you have a
Thank
message for those who are currently also like yourself, cancer warriors here, or who may be able to watch this online on YouTube or in any of the other live streams? What message do you have for them?
for my other cancer warriors and survivors is, just, um, sorry, hold on. Um, my message to my other cancer warriors and survivors would be to keep going. Don't lose faith, don't lose hope. There are days where I don't want to do anything and that I feel completely beat up. And those days you just have to embrace the suck. And but you can have your 5 minute cry, but just remember that you are breathing and you are living and you are going to win. And for everyone else out there is just to live your life, because it's, if I've learned one thing throughout this entire thing, is just to
Mm-hmm.
pretty much live life on the edge. I mean, it's cliche, but there's just a lot of things I would have done differently, a lot of things I want to do after. And another thing is that I am trying to love every single person I come in contact with. I want to have a meaningful connection with someone, and you never know how that's going to affect someone's life. So just be the positive person you want to see in your life.
Thank you, Zach. That was tremendous. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
Un- Unfortunately, as always, with talking with our friends and newfound family of My Story, the time is so short. But we thank you so much, everyone who has tuned in to this episode of My Story. Thank you, Zach, for joining us across the ocean. We wish you all the best, to you, your mom, Mindy, and all of your family. We certainly wish you all the best and hope that you keep in touch with us.
Oh yeah, thank you.